makes me change the time and that'll mess up everything.
Hey, fine.
Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to the Really Charlie podcast. This is Charlie Perry, your host. Today's guest is Brandon Young. My man.
Hmm.
I'm very proud of this young man. He's going to tell us a story. He's going to tell us a story, and we're going to talk about it on the Really Charlie podcast today. We're going to get deep. We're going to get down. And we're also going to let you all know as a listener and a viewer that there's things out there when it comes to mental illness and depression. There's people out there, there's organizations out there. Um, don't think you're alone. You're not alone. There's many, many avenues, many, many venues you can go to. In fact, in the comment section, I have a website up there that you guys can click on, read some stories, similar stories possibly to yourself. And also there's a 1-800 number on the comment section where you can call. And that's nationally. That's all over the country. It's also on the bottom screen there. So without further ado, Brandon Young, how you doing today?
Good, and you, first and foremost, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Any conversation with you is a good one. And
Always good times.
yeah, I'm very, very happy for you. You're now married with children. You was, for a while there was just being daddy, being boyfriend. Now you're
Yeah,
married with children. How you feel about that?
great. I think the best thing about everything is that, especially in the times that we're in, like that family aspect gets me through everything. As crazy as it may be sometimes, but super happy. Um, I think I've said it plenty of times. My wife's my rock. And then the kids, we just put that love into them. So, um, yeah,
Yeah,
everybody's doing good.
it's a it's a great feeling when you have that nest that you can go to, and the
Yeah.
people within the nest are the people that make you happy at all
Hmm.
times, and in most cases they make you the most happiest. So it's good to have, and we're all locked down
Yeah.
because of this. But you know what? I've been having. If I wasn't locked down, I wouldn't have this podcast.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have these conversations. And I'm glad we reached out to each other and we were able to lock this date down so we can have
Sure.
so we can have this conversation, which is very, very important.
For sure. And like any other time, I think you and I think we were saying off air, um, I miss these conversations next to you, usually 2 to 3 drinks in.
Yeah.
Um, so definitely pumped to be on and to see your face. It's definitely a good feeling to be in the space that we're in for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We throughout this year and I try to get the positive out of every single day,
Yep.
and one of the things that helped me out is family and also work. You know, um, I'm working with a few of my colleagues that keep me happy every day. We're always
Yep.
laughing, joking around. Trying to be there for each other. Um, so what's this? It says Ian says true lockdown and other things that happen can also be opportunities. So true.
For sure.
I mean, this opportunity right here with this podcast has really been wonderful for me. And so we're gonna get down. We're gonna get down right now, as they say in the old school world. We're gonna get down and talk about mental illness,
Hmm.
depression,
Hmm.
and how it affected you, and how you was able to get through it and
Hmm.
create such a great family, create opportunities for yourself where your elders, like myself, your parents, your family, everyone, friends. We're proud of you.
Appreciate
Proud of
that.
you because of, I always seen the sincerity in you. I always
Yep.
seen the commitment in you when it came to your family. So, um, and I've been proud ever since. And I use this phrase very lightly for a very few amount of people. And I have my first round draft picks with a no trade clause. And and you're one of them. I just want you to know that. You're definitely
I appreciate that. And before we delve too deep, uh, even when me and Nikita first started dating, you guys were always like a safety net, um, because you get it. Like you get into a situation with somebody, and people have past interpretations of you or something that you've heard, and you guys between yourself and Auntie Michelle and everybody just it's just been like welcoming. So it was good during our early years to be able to have that outlet to go be like, oh, we're gonna go to a family party, and then it just turns into us building, and then I would say into our relationship now. Just to watch that grow and blossom has been a fun thing too. We're both witty and sarcastic, so and it's just been fun to just go from knowing you as a person to now we're family members. So
yeah,
definitely a good nothing but high words for you as well. So
good. And I appreciate that.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not enough words for you guys. You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The
Thank you.
over the as you were growing up, you had some things
Mm-hmm.
that were bothering you. Um, things that got you depressed,
Yep.
and then things that you were diagnosed with.
Yep.
Um, how far can you go back in your life? What
Um,
age?
I can take you back. I can tell you the moment that I started to. I think it started when I began to question myself, um, and right down to appearance. Um, it started with my vitiligo spots.
Uh huh.
Um, just wondering like why. You know what I mean? Just you can feel the stares when I was. This is all from the beginning. So when I was younger, I could feel the stares, and to be honest, it was so new to my family and I that we didn't even know like what it was. I guess the first concern was that it was a medical thing.
Yeah.
Um, Making sure that there was nothing terminally wrong with me. God bless that there wasn't, but just figuring out the how and why. So just me being uncomfortable, I would say I had them. I had them when I was younger, but they weren't visible.
Mhm.
Through high school, I don't even think they were, but I was still cognizant, meaning you wouldn't catch me in a pair of shorts in the summertime when I was younger.
Yeah.
Um, and then through high school, a lot of it was negligence on my own part from not putting sunscreen on and them spreading, and then it just went from stress derived from other things that I was going through. So I would honestly say that that's where that began because I wasn't confident in myself, and I could feel the stares. So I just got so enamored and wrapped up with the why and like, okay, like how can I hide it? Um, because I didn't feel like the next person. I didn't feel like the right. I didn't feel good about myself when I woke up.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so just and for people to not know what it is, um, fortunately, I came up in a house where like nothing was off limits when we joked. So I prepared myself for those jokes, but internally, if somebody took it there, it would kill me inside.
yeah.
Um, because I just wasn't. I wasn't ready for that. I didn't understand it. So I would say that's where it all started.
Okay. And did it did it stop you from making new friends?
Yeah, you can honestly say so. I, I think what I've tried to do a good job at is just my name as a man. So I never didn't have friends. It just put me in a different element. I just wasn't comfortable. So whether it be I go to the Y on every Friday night in ball and sweatpants and a long sleeve tee, it just made me feel different, and I wasn't comfortable literally in my own skin. So yeah, it shied away from me having friends, but my personality kind of always overruled that. But as far as like a beach day, nah, you wouldn't catch me at a beach. Definitely, my growth happened late as
Yeah.
far as being able to, like I said, be comfortable in my own skin, and then just blossoming into having the friends that I have today, which is still a handful.
Okay. And then now, when you decide to talk to, you know, people that are raising you,
Hmm.
um, and you decide to reach out to the medical field,
Hmm.
how they go for you? Were you reluctant because there's still people, you know, there's still
Yeah.
people. So
So
if you,
with me, and I think it's still a stigma now, um, and we can get even deeper into it as we talk. But back when I was trying to figure out who I was as a person, um, and trying to let people know um, how I was feeling,
yes,
it wasn't always welcome. It was more or less like, it's just, you'll be fine. Like, it was kind of like put on the back burner. Um, because I think, again, when people tell you about mental health, they're still so used to for lack of a better way to say it, the attention that comes with it.
yeah,
Um, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but that's how people view it.
hmm,
So trying to have these conversations, and again, for any of my family that maybe listen, this is how I felt then. It was uncomfortable because it was my mom. It was just like, you'll be fine. She was always nurturing, but and then my dad, well, uh, it was more or less like, come on, you're good, you got this. It was more like, buckle up.
yeah,
Um, it didn't. I went to counseling as a child, um, and this was a topic of conversation, meaning the vitiligo. But then it became, believe it or not, I wasn't always as vocal as I was now.
hmm,
So if somebody had offended me, even aside from this, I didn't have the self confidence to be able to address it, whether like even respectfully. Um, so what would happen is I would just internalize everything, and then it just became another notch, and then I grew up, and then I would just compartmentalize all these things, and then fast forward before you know it, and we can go through the timeline if you like after. I'm in a psychiatric hospital,
yeah,
um, because, and I'm not proud of it, but I wasn't one of those people who, and again, nobody really knows this story besides my family. So I wasn't one of those people that bluffed on I didn't want to live. Like, I really tried um, a couple of times to take my own life,
yeah,
and from that, it it tarnished um, relationships that I had with people because I was putting them in a bad spot. So then now I'm relearning people that might be my mother, my father. Um, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I'm hurting myself, but on the outside, I'm hurting them too. But to me, it's like I tried to tell you this years ago. Um, so now you want to hear me?
Hmm.
That was my thing. Like, so now you want to hear me. So I can I can take you through each time I did with, obviously, without getting too graphic. I know, because sometimes I still take myself back to that place, not mentally, but just as an appreciation for what I've been able to overcome with people such as yourself,
Yep.
just in talking. So yeah, I would say it started with a bit of vitiligo. Just to recap, tried to talk to people just to let them know how I felt. Kind of got the cold shoulder, and that's not for judgment of character. You just, a lot of times people don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Um, and then from that, it was just years of buildup. Um, you compile that with, God bless it, my mother's a perfectionist. Um, so any time that I fell below the bar of what her expectations were, um, I ate it. You know what I mean? Like, I
Uh-huh.
felt it. So it was a lot of it, it was a lot of me just not being able to um, express myself properly.
Yeah. And that comes because it's you're gonna. How do you express something that you really don't want to talk about? You know,
Exactly.
or you and then at some point you want to talk about it, and the most comfortable time to talk about it is probably when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
So and then so you kind of just go and you're going back and forth and you know but it's I gotta commend you, and I can relate in some situations in my life where with my hands,
Yep.
my hands are frostbitten, short, stubby, and that's why when my hands are always in a fist.
Yeah.
People always assuming that I was mad or angry, but trying to hold, hide back my own physical deficiencies and you know, but then again, they would like you. My greatest enjoyment in life growing up as a kid was sports.
Yeah.
So getting on that basketball court, playing football,
Yep.
playing baseball, doing, those are the things that I loved. And eventually there was some kind of conversation by somebody,
Hmm.
teammate, coach, whatever, and it got to the point where it got me angry. Um, you know, and that only drove me to be a better athlete. It
Yeah.
only drove me to. It never stopped me from doing the things I loved, like basketball. I just kept staying out there. This is something I enjoyed. It was something that I never needed anybody to go with me. As long as I had Wilson and Spalding,
Yeah.
I was all set.
And
So,
I commend you on that, because I wasn't I wasn't there. If anything, I would say that even this, even my skin disorder, it actually hindered my growth as an athlete. I'm not trying to say that I was a superstar, but I I wasn't comfortable. I would be sick before games because I didn't want people thinking it's so crazy to think about how simple-minded people are in a sense of, I couldn't even give a handshake without people thinking that they would catch it.
yeah,
So
yep,
it, at that, now I'm old enough now where I can laugh about it. But at that age, I couldn't process that. What do you? My hand is my hand. You're not gonna. This is contagious. You're not gonna wake up and your skin's gonna start changing a different color one day. Um,
so,
so why? So from that, it made me not want to put myself out there. Um, in certain instances or experiences, I just wouldn't. I didn't feel comfortable, and then from that, it caused a lot of um, animosity, just because of expectations that were laid upon me from, like, for instance, my father knew I had the talent,
Yeah.
but me saying I'm sick all the time, I mean, as a father, you think in your head like, okay, like, what are you afraid of competition? But all the while, it's not. I'm never afraid of competition.
Yeah.
It's just I'm afraid of literally my own skin. Um, so that wasn't a trigger for me. Um, then from that, it would be um, again not knowing how to vocalize myself. I think when it was at its peak, when I was really bad was what, Keto and I be together for 12 years, so 2011.
Hmm.
Um, First time I tried to take my life, I was in this almost cost me one of the most important relationships of my life. Um, my stepdad Greg was I never referred to him as my stepdad. That's Pops.
Yep.
Um,
Good
I
man.
was
Good
driving
man.
his car one day. Yeah, that's my guy. So I was driving his car one day down 195, and I was just, what am I doing? Like in my head, I'm literally fighting with myself in my head. Um, Shut my eyes, veered right into the on purpose onto one of the barriers that stop you from going over to the other side.
Yeah. Yep.
Wake up, thank God now today, right? Um, no recollection, no really care of how I got there, but more or less pissed that I'm even still there. Um, because I'm like, excuse my French, shit, I can't even do that right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and and let me take it back. A lot of that stemmed from me feeling like, because at the time I had had my firstborn, and it just felt like I couldn't be there for him the way that I wanted to be. Meaning, like, I'm asking my mom and dad for help for diapers. I didn't feel like a man then. I didn't. So that was one incident. Um, Round two was I was lit. This almost again each time, and I kind of touched on it earlier. Um, it hindered growth with a relationship with somebody close to me. So second time, uh, my dad was living on Washington Street with Paula. Um, I can't. Again, I was just fed up. I couldn't provide for myself. I'm 24, 25, and this isn't a shot at anybody. Like living with, bouncing in between my mom's house and my dad's house because my mom couldn't deal with me because I was too much on her, or my dad, vice versa. So
Yep.
here I am as what would be considered a grown man, bouncing from house to house, and wake up one morning, go right to the medicine cabinet. I remember it. I took like probably 7 to 8 Advil PMs. Um, didn't want to wake up, but the problem with that, besides obviously that's not the thing to do in that moment, is my brothers were there. Um, and in my brother's eyes at the time, I was here. No matter what I felt in myself, I was here, and they idolized it. I think from that moment, I tarnished what they felt in me, and I still try to gain that back to this day. Um, so from that, Paula was actually there. Um, get rushed. I
Hmm.
can't remember the exact timeline, but long story short, I end up at the crisis center on Kempton Street, and
Okay.
I'm sitting down at the table, and I'm across from a social worker or a counselor at that time, and I'm looking like I really have nothing to say to you because again I'm pissed I'm here still. Um, so I'm looking across, and on the other side of the glass, kind of like how they have at the police station, I know my family is on the other side of that glass. I can't see them, but they can see me and
Yep.
hear what I'm saying to them. So I'm just saying, look, they gave me the option. Now, mind you, I still have my intellect during these though. Like my brain, like I still had it between the ears. So they're asking me questions, and I'm saying to myself, I'm not gonna pretty much incriminate myself. So you guys have to section me, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So you guys won't section me. Excuse me. Because in my head at that time, I'm still okay. I'm gonna leave here and I'm gonna get it done. Um, so it ends up being that my and I could be wrong. I'm almost certain my mom, um, because I was still living under her tutelage, sectioned me on
Yep.
my behalf. Um, and I still remember to this day um, when they took me uh, walking past her specifically and just watching her cry. Um, you would think at that point it would kind of click, but it didn't. So I go and I end up getting. I don't even get sectioned locally. They didn't have a bed locally. I go. I get sectioned in Westwood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I get there. It's like the whole thing. Like, take off your clothes, no shoelaces, nothing. Um, I get there and it's like it's a shell shock.
Yeah.
Um, and but mind you, I'm so caught up in my own feelings that I'm refusing to go out in like their rec time that they would call it. And it's a lot of it is just you, like how you and I are talking now, talking about your feelings, going outside, getting fresh air. I didn't want it because I'm thinking again, how the hell can I get out of here? All the meanwhile, they're like analyzing me and saying that I'm still not good for myself because
Right.
I'm not having that interaction with people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm that like I think I got there on a Thursday. At the very least, they keep you there for 3 days, um, and they don't count the weekends. So I think I didn't get analyzed until Friday, and I didn't leave until the following week or two after. Um, my no visits, nobody visited me because by that point I had already, for lack of a better word, like phrase, I burned my bridge. Like I hurt my mom. I did that in front of my brothers.
Yep.
Um, the only person, uh, and just to get off topic quickly, the only person that actually reached out and called me was Nikita. Um, and I think at that moment, I had figured in my head, if I ever get turned this around, that's going to be the woman that I'm with because
Hmm.
Nikita's 4 years younger than me. So at that age, when I was doing that, she could have been, she was still mothering. At that time, I had Nalia.
Yeah.
She was mothering our child by herself. And then you're still checking on me.
Yeah.
Um, when I did that, it's like, oh, okay. Like, again, I still have it between the ears. So I'm like, okay. And it was her calls, like, or calls to her that got me through that
So.
stage. Um, because at that point, I was just like, I'll rot here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I really didn't much care. So it ruined it hurt a lot of um, people in the crossfire. So from that, I don't have a relationship with my pops as I call them, which hurt. I don't have a relationship with my dad. That hurt. My mom, same. Um, but that wasn't even the last time it happened. So I get out. Maybe I can't even remember when it happened again. Now I'm losing it, and I'm still living at my mother's house,
Yep.
and I'm just breaking stuff. Just like I'm so blacked out, I'm just breaking stuff. I'm so angry. It was so bad. It was a rainy night, um, and the cops picked me up because what had originally happened is they said my mom called the cops. They said that I couldn't go there. I went somewhere else. They said I couldn't go there. then I ended up coming back, and I was just, and again, I started breaking stuff. Um, and they said that they had to take me because they were fearful for what I would do to somebody else.
Yeah.
Now, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not that type of person. I'll give you the shirt off my back, but at that time, I was so angry. Um, so let me backtrack for a second. I am. My dad ends up. This is when he was still at AFC Cable. Gets me an interview at AFC Cable. Right. Um, don't remember it to this day. They said that I went in there and I just put my head down. That was it. I just put my head down. I don't remember it. Only thing I remember was him obviously being pissed and then me calling him while I had scripture in my hand in the closet of my bedroom um, closet and just telling him I can just hear it. Like it's just like I'm not supposed to be here. I can't do this. So I mean, now that I think about it, I put them through a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so I still had to deal with that judgment coming off of all of that. I'm thinking that I'm going to get out and everything's going to be hunky dory. I didn't have a place to stay. Um, I didn't. My mom loved me, but she was here with it. Like
hmm
my dad was the tough cookie, where it was just like, all right, well, you did this in my house, so him and I didn't talk for probably almost a year
Yeah.
after that. And thank God we're not like that anymore. But I mean, I own it. Um,
Yeah.
so
We
yeah.
have um I got a story I'm gonna read.
Yeah.
Kind of relate, similar to what you went through. Um, let's see here. It said 4 months ago I overdosed on a random assortment of pills. I had decided that there was nothing left for me. I wanted to go quietly in the night so I wouldn't have to worry about my parents. I still woke up. I was taken to the ER where I was given charcoal to suck up the pills I had taken and put under observation for a few days. The doctors, the nurses asked why I did it. My mom cried when she heard that the reasons was I wanted the pain to stop. There was nothing in my childhood that was so terrible that causes pain. I just had this excruciating pain. These 4 months had been so hard. I have learned the pain lessons.
Hmm.
It goes away, and at the end of the tunnel there is a light, even if at that moment all you see in the darkness is the light is there. Excuse me. Sorry for that pause. I realize that I am not alone. There are people who love and care about me, and there are people who would miss me if I were gone. I found a reason to keep living. I hope whoever needed to hear my story finds a reason too.
Yeah.
And it's so almost identical to what you were saying.
I felt that. Um,
Yeah.
you
And
just, you
I'm just
just,
glad.
yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Um, and that story comes from the website that's on the bottom line, and there's a number there. And what it does is that so many people kind of just posting those different stories, and in this story, it probably bring you back to the ER,
Hmm.
to the stationary, the temporary housing that you had where you were getting
Yep.
evaluated. It just brings back those stories. Um, and sometimes that makes you, just hearing those stories, especially if you're in with a friend or family
Yeah.
that's telling you that story, now you feel it. You got some empathy for them. You can definitely say, hey, I've been there. I did
Yeah.
that.
I,
I
I try to advocate as much as possible, and not if not for anything, just for my friends. Like I'm here for anything. Like I'm that friend that I've been through a lot of different walks of life. So it's like I'm there's nothing that you can't call me with because um, talking's good, right? And
Yeah.
I think that was the problem is that I didn't. It took me. I'm 34 now. It took me 28 years probably to get to the point where I can sit here and have a conversation. Just not even this, just in general, to feel comfortable, and I'm not sitting like this, covering up my like my elbows, or
Hmm.
I'm not um, just nervous or thinking about in my head, well, what does this other person think of me? You know what I mean? So I think that that was the thing that it was hard. It was hard, and people will look like, oh, you didn't. You had your mother and your yeah, but not everybody has to. I mean, I came. I have a broken home too. I didn't have to be in the streets to struggle because my struggle wasn't out there; it was here. If you're
Yeah.
not right here, you're not good anywhere.
Hmm.
Um, so no, like I can't relate to somebody who's lived that lifestyle, but at the same time, I didn't have it here. So and that was my biggest challenge was how do I get to a point where I'm not only good for my family, because if I'm not good for myself, I'm not good for them. So from me having these experiences, I've lost years with my first two.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that bothers me the most. Um, I lost years. I've missed events, and I think that's the reason why I go as hard as them for them as I do today. Um, because I was that dude who couldn't get his firstborn a pack of Pampers without asking for help. Um,
Yeah.
that bothered me because I think the problem is as a man, right? You're supposed to be able to take whatever life throws at you. That's the stigma, right?
Hmm.
Um, but what happens when you're not strong enough to? What happens when you don't have that supporting cast that can lift you back up? I was fortunate where I had a person that was patient with me enough to pick me up when I was down.
Yeah.
A lot of people who go through what I've gone through or might not even know what I've gone through, they don't see that. Everybody, and I think people on the outside looking in say, "Oh, well, Brandon and Keita, they don't know." You were there that day when I literally wrote my vows and I said you saved my life. I meant it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a care. I didn't need it. I didn't want life. Fortunately, life wanted me.
So
So and
when
yep,
you, oh, sorry, cut you off.
no, no,
The as you go through everything, you go through. Um, all right, now, you know, now, Mr. Young, you gotta suck it up. You got some
yep,
people around you. Got some people that love you. Got some people that you created.
yep,
And so, as you create child number one, child number two, and they're growing,
yep.
now they have questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that? How did you handle that? Because I know it's already happened.
Um, like anything else that I told myself, because, and I'll be brutally honest, I was a habitual liar when I was going through this. I would lie about the dumbest things. So part of my healing and growth was I told myself that I would tell the truth and be transparent no matter how bad the truth hurt. Um, so with my kids, transparency. Um, my daughter is a little younger, so I didn't have to have. She got a different version than what my son got, and he just looked at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just to have that conversation with him, um, put me back, what, 8 to 10 years in, wow, this is what my parents were feeling when I was going through this. So from that, I think from my experience, what I learned, especially with my kids, is I analyze and I watch them. Um, I had to have the conversation with my kids, and there was questions, and those questions I answered. Daddy, why? Um, Daddy wasn't happy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it has nothing to do with you guys because you guys make Daddy happy every day.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes in life, this is me talking to them, like people go through things. And I think that how I've had to deal with it with them is to make myself susceptible and approachable to what they could have to tell me. So I watch everything with them. I have a very open relationship with them. Um, that they can. I would love to. I would love to tell them the world is butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But if you, there's nothing that they can't come to me with, and I only. What pushes me to do that is I didn't have that. Um, it wasn't a judgment-free zone. You know what I mean? A lot of the times, and my dad and I talked about it before because, and I love to talk about the conversations after this that I had to have with people when I got out. But my dad and I talked about it before. Like in my household, living with him, there was nothing off limits as a joke.
Yeah.
So, but the way that we get through our pain is joking. So that I have to make it a point where if my son comes to me and says, "Daddy, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z," it doesn't even have to be what's going on between here. It could just be anything. To not joke about it because that's I'm trained to do that.
Yeah.
As vain as that sounds, I don't mean to sound un like phased by it, but like that's my thing. Is like I joke about I used to joke about my pain. Now I look at my kids and it's like I can see if you're hurt, then come talk to daddy, and if you can't come talk to daddy, then talk to mommy. Or in my son's in see again, and I can keep chirping on it. Is Keita's a good segue to that too, because the things that he might not necessarily be comfortable with me, she comes to me, and then it gives me a way to come to approach him. Because with out of my three kids, my oldest is more like me back then, so I watch him a lot closer. My daughter's outspoken and more like me now, where she has no filter. So I watch him, especially very, and that's not to say that he's not. I love him, and
Yeah.
he's great, but he's timid. I can see him being timid. So even the way I discipline is different than the way that I was disciplined. My parents were old school, like seen and not heard. You can get smacked on sight,
Mm-hmm.
um, and like know your place. And I
Yeah.
think that that this whole thing of, well, that's your elder. Yeah, that like I'm my son's elder, but I still owe you respect too. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing that you can say to me or ask me or tell me that I won't address, um, that I'm not going to. I'm completely transparent with you, but
Yeah.
there's a level of respect that you're still going to give me. But there's nothing that he can't come to me with. So, and somebody just said it. You got to break. Yeah, I. That was a thing. I had to break a cycle
Yeah.
because if not, then what am I doing? I'm raising my kids to be sheep to be slaughtered, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the world that we're in, so that's the thing is I had to. I think if anything, it's adapted the way that I parented because I had to reevaluate. Like, okay, you can't always rule with an iron fist.
Yeah.
Um, you got to be able to. Your kids got to be able to come to you and not be fearful. And I think that that was the thing is I was fearful, fearful for what would be said to me, fearful of judgment. Um, so now having back to your question, the conversation I had to sit down and have with them was, and it was a heartbreaking one because the thing that I had to understand when I went through all of this was I had to be susceptible to what people had to say about me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to hear well, Daddy, you weren't there. Why? That breaks my heart. Um, I can't, I can't get that back. So there's days like, yeah, like it breaks me.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that gets me through it now that doesn't bring me back to my old place is I vocalize it now. So when he asked me that, I just had to say, Daddy just wasn't in a good place. I wasn't good for you.
Yeah.
And I commend both of y'all's mothers for um, bringing you through that time where Daddy wasn't Daddy. Because I'm not one of these guys who just sits here and tries to act like I'm completely perfect as a father. I've made my mistakes as a father, um, but now you can't tell me anything, because the best thing I had to do was break that cycle and say, hey, yeah, Daddy was wrong. Because that was the other thing too is when I saw stuff coming up, we couldn't ask that question. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It was just like just do what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to remix how I parented, and I also had to be empathetic to the way that they might come back and how they might feel about me at a time. Because there was a point in time I can tell you, and this is brutal honesty, that my son probably didn't like seeing me, but he didn't have the full picture,
Yeah.
and and at that age it was for a good reason. Um, I think that the one thing is that not having the full picture at that age salvaged our relationship, meaning mine
Mm-hmm.
and his, because I had a lot of hiccups and bumps going through those earlier stages. I never not loved him, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I wasn't there for him the way that I should have been. And that alone, again, was another trigger. Was I can't be there for you emotionally, physically, financially.
Mm-hmm.
So what good am I to you?
And it's and kids do think that, as you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and they're really, But the best thing right now for you and him
yeah,
is uh is that you're there. You're
yeah,
there, and you're there just to say, hey, I'm here, son. Daddy's here.
yeah,
It's it's I know the past is definitely what it is, but right now we're talking about you and I. Right now, we're gonna
yeah,
get things done. Stuff you
yeah,
gotta talk to me about. We're gonna talk about it. I don't
yeah.
care if it's about video games. I don't care if it's about
Hmm.
whatever it may be. Like you
Yeah.
said, you're transparent. Is
That's how I had to get through anything is especially with the kids is transparency. Had to. If I'm not transparent with them, then I'm not breaking a cycle. I'm they're just living a lie, really.
That's it. And Pop says he loves us.
Oh, love you too. Um,
He
and
good job, Greg. Yeah, as Brandon says, Pops. Good job, man. the you Now when you right now you're working at home, you're doing your but in each job that you had,
yeah,
where probably a supervisor may go up to you and say, hey, human resources, we need a couple of crisis
yeah.
people, you know would you like to be that? Would you volunteer for it, or was you part of that where your colleagues at work can say, hey, I gotta talk to somebody, and I'm gonna, or you are one of those people that kind of reach out to someone. The word is out that you know, uh, Charlie's going through a problem. We need some people to reach out to him.
If you're asking me now, I'm more of the latter, where I'm. the person. Like I said, if and even if there's anybody on here that would ever want to reach, I'm always here. I'm always looking to help people because I think that the worst thing in the world that you could feel is loneliness. Um, but back then, I was the person afraid to seek counsel. Um, I couldn't because I got flagged um, and was instituted. I couldn't even go to the doctors if I hurt my ankle playing basketball because what would happen is they would think that I was trying. I did it on purpose, like I tried to hurt myself again. Like so,
Yeah.
there was a while I wasn't even going to the doctors, and I still have that stigma about it that I won't go to the even though I'm years removed from it. That because there's a red tape, so shall we say, on my medical folder that I can't even go get looked at regularly because if I do, they might think this.
Yes.
Um, so as far as to answer your question, back then, no, I was neither. I wasn't able to seek counsel, and I wasn't able to counsel anybody
All right.
because I would be doing myself a disservice if I tried to counsel anybody back then. Now, um, I always, if anybody ever hits me with that, or even just life stuff, I just try to be there for anybody because, like I said, the like friendship and a real friend is free.
Yeah.
Conversation's free, so I just try to be there for anybody who needs it. But back then, no, I couldn't do it, and that was part of the reason why I couldn't keep a job was because of the pain. I would find a reason to miss a shift. So a lot of my stuff from a person who might not know me, yeah, it was self inflicted, but it was self inflicted because again, I wasn't in my right state of I wasn't in my right state of mind.
True. The mom says, Brandon, I listened to this. Yes, it is reliving the pain, but through the grace of God, I have learned from.
No,
Um, and so true. And she continues with you and I, you and I, and beyond proud of you. Sorry, you are truly my greatest blessing. In addition to the everything Brandon has said, always remember to trust God. Brandon, you are exemplified what a man you should be. You and there are no words to describe my love for you.
no,
It's a,
and I love her. I I love I love her too, and
yeah,
it's but that relationship was severed at one point.
yeah,
And it was my doing. Like I I had broken the one woman who would love me unconditionally's heart, and
yeah,
I had to deal with that. That was another like it was bad. Like it was like she for a while she didn't look at me the same, and I think I would rather. I used to say this all the time when it came to her. If you asked me if I would have rather have had the school call my mother or my father, I'm going to tell you my father every single time because my mother puts fear into my heart. But I would have rather her like say what she had to say instead of giving me that disappointing look.
yeah, yeah,
Um, like the fact that I know that at one point I disappointed her, but like it again, it was a thing like because I had she had such um, high hopes and expectations for me, so to not live up to those, it was tough.
well, and then I can't speak for mom, but when those tears come from your eyes and your heart,
Yeah,
it really painful. And but you know what? We are all definitely proud of you, and I can speak for everybody, whether they want me to or not. There's we love you, proud of you. There's you know, everything's to me is going good for you. Other than other than your lousy father-in-law, but
Listen, Ben, don't get me started. I know.
it's
But
it's
even to this day, Unc, um, because we're locked inside, I have to be vocal. Like I can give you something so simple. Um, and again, this is where Akita comes into play because she knows how to deal with me. This is a few months ago. I got a piece of mail in the mail, right? Um, so what happened is I read it and I processed it. I'm good, right? My
mhm,
worst enemy has always been I can overthink anything. So like if you could say, "Oh, have a great day," like I can take that and spin it. If I have time, which this pandemic has given us, I can psychoanalyze anyway, right? So I get this piece of paper in the mail. I read it because I'm afraid of it, even though nothing's wrong. I rip it up, right?
mhm,
I immediately take out the trash, but then I come upstairs because Nikita asked me about it, like just in passing, like, "Oh, what did you get for mail?" I'm trying to explain it to her because I'm like so worried that it means something else that I go downstairs to the trash, take it out, have her retape it together, and have her read it to me just for her to tell me that there's nothing wrong. You see what I'm like?
yeah,
It's still a work, and if it's still a work in process. Like I have to still there's still things that like I still battle, not to that degree, but at the same time, like for me, like think about that. I really ripped up read a paper, ripped it up, brought it back upstairs, had my wife retape it for her to read it to me to tell me, no, everything's gonna be okay.
mhm,
Like it, it's deep,
yeah.
and it's hard to get that out of you, and um, it a lot of that stuff is deeply rooted.
There's
So,
well, the best thing is being aware of it,
mhm.
being able to kind of slow yourself down
Mhm.
so you can get to a place or get to a person where um, you can talk about it. And
And I think that goes with like how I've kind of surrounded myself with my people.
yeah,
Um, so like I have my friends like Destin and Willis who was on here, or
yeah,
Cesare Dico. Like I have this net that, or even Jamal
yep,
or Jigga. I can send them a flare at any time and say, "Hey," and they know. So it's all been therapy, really. But I think again, and I don't know if you have a moment more to talk about it. I think that the hardest part of going through everything was the conversations, because I don't think that people realize that it's like I think that when you're in that moment, in the way that I was in that moment, you're just thinking of the now. You're not thinking of the later and then the destruction that is. It's like if you go back to my first stint, um, I totaled my pops' car.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, and now I have to come out and have this conversation with you. Like, I'm sure he's emphatic that I'm here, I'm alive, but at the same time, like, that's his way of living. Um, my dad, I tried to take my life in his house
yeah,
in front of
yeah,
his wife and my brothers. Like, I had, I think, and I remember that day. I get out of Westwood, and I had been, it's been like a couple, it had been probably like 6 7 months. I might not be doing the time any justice, but it was some time, and I finally like nailed him down because we weren't talking, and we go to D'Angelo's in South Dartmouth, and he just I tell him like how I like what he might have done to push me to that.
mhm,
So I'm thinking like, okay, I'm weight lifted off of my shoulder, right? No, I had to listen to the harm that I caused him too, because now I'm causing friction in his marriage, in his home, and he's still raising boys past me.
Yeah.
So what kind of example did I set? So I like to have these conversations. It's not, and the irony of it all, and why I know, like through the grace of God, I'm here, and that He has some sort of sense of humor, is that now every day when I go to work or when we were driving into work, um, I pass where I was sectioned to get to work. Like it's literally 60 seconds away from where I work.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like to drive past it. It's wow. You know what I mean? Like I feel it every time, and I remember the drive vividly. I remember it. Um, so to talk to people who think that on from the outside looking in, everything is glamorous. Like no, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot like it. There's a lot of pain, but and it's okay because
Yeah.
it helped mold me in. Like nobody's ever alone, but I think that the hardest part that people don't really talk about, aside from not wanting to be here for yourself and not being there for the people who love you, is the fact that you have to have some very uncomfortable conversations with people um, who you might have hurt in that process. And I've in my whirlwind, I hurt a lot of people. Um, so, and from that, I've gained stronger relationships. But at the same time, I'll never cast judgment on anybody who's going through anything at any given time, because at any time that could be you. Um, Rewind, and I don't know. I don't want to keep you too long. I don't want to
Keep going.
keep too much. Okay, so and not as dramatic, but I had another moment more recently, not like this recent, but after Keita and I's wedding, right? We had a lot going on. So you figure we had bachelor, bachelorette, come back, get married, go to Hawaii, and we moved into a new place, right? Well, a month or so later, I get laid off. So I'm like, whoa, like my cost of living goes up. Excuse me, we have um, more bills, like whatever, right? I was probably out a good 4 months. And again, I'm sitting here watching my wife go to work and put her like her scrubs on, and I'm like, I I don't deserve you. Like I can't. I'm not supporting you the way that you're accustomed to, or I'm not supporting you the way that you need to be.
Yeah.
Um, so that alone, again, there's triggers. I just have to know. I just know how to deal with them differently. Do I reach out to a hotline? No, not necessarily. A lot of it is I can wake her up at midnight, and a lot of times, and she ends up. I've cried in her arms, um, because I can't shake it. I can't turn. I think like I said, my mind is my worst enemy. I can't turn it off. So I can analyze everything, and there'll be days where, even to this day, I'm man enough to admit that there's days that I wake up and I still cry. Like it just, I can't even tell you why. I'll just cry.
Yeah.
Um, you know what I'm saying? Like I just, and it like she knows. Um, but people don't see that side. They don't see like when I'm not at my best, when I can just I just don't have it. I don't have it in the tank. So
And it's, you know, like Mrs. Perry said, that's
yeah,
teamwork.
oh
It
yeah,
is.
it
Yeah.
really is.
You gotta, you know, you definitely got a good nucleus. And the one thing is, I really, what I like is that, this is a Really Charlie podcast. And
Yeah.
you seen what was going on,
Yep.
and you reached out to me, and you
Mhm.
made this happen. And that's a 5 stars in my eyes because, um, you know, I didn't know that we should talk to Brandon Young about this, and you knew that. You know what? That's a good opportunity for me. It's a good opportunity for listeners, for
Mhm.
everyone to kind of reflect, whether it's on
Mhm.
you or reflect on what they're going through. And I'm so glad you reached out to me because
I'm super thankful that you had me. Just because of what you're building over here, it's amazing. And people again, I guarantee you, if you pick 10 people who really didn't know me and only saw the outside looking in, they wouldn't know. Um, I You just have to. Again, I just beat the transparency drum. I think
mhm,
people always think that everything's good over here, but it wasn't always like this. Um, so for me to come on here, it's actually an honor because of what you're building. Um, and again, I got several questions from people like in my circle saying, "Oh, are you good? Like, are you good to talk about?" Yeah, because you want to know what, like, my experience could save somebody else.
yeah,
Um, Not trying to say like I'm this earth shaking person, but you just never know. Like, somebody could watch this and see, oh wow, he went through that and he did that and he's here and he has this. I'm not the richest person in the world, but I'm rich with love and the people that I have around me. Again, if you, I just want
yeah.
people to feel that you're not alone and you're never alone.
Mom says it.
Everybody has a story.
Yeah, Mom says it perfectly. Says understand that nothing is by accident. This is
Hmm.
God's work, and you are doing it justice. It's so
For
true.
sure, sure,
Everybody's a messenger. No matter what,
yeah,
we will get those messages, and uh, you know, going and understanding, or just kind of reading, whether any kind of religious entity that you're actually involved in, you know, some people do it 7 days a week. Some people do it maybe once a year,
yeah,
whatever. But the bottom line is, message could come through all of us at any
yep,
given point. And in this case, I believe a lot of messages came through you for, whether it's you speaking to your family as a whole, you speaking
hmm,
to an individual, you speaking to a friend, or you just speaking on this podcast, period.
yeah,
I guarantee you that a lot's going to come out of this. Um, after it's said and done, after we're done with this, and then, you know, and that came through you.
yeah. No, I like I said, I'm just super grateful for the opportunity, and then just I think I'm grateful to be here. I don't mean to say that just so jaded, but um, I wasn't. If you look, I wasn't supposed to be. Um,
Yeah,
Especially with my mentality, I didn't want to be.
yeah,
Um, I think the biggest message out of this is that there's always somebody, even if you don't want yourself to be it, there's always somebody who needs you here.
yeah,
Um, so never hesitate to just talk. I think, and you and I again talked about it offline. It's just when we're in the era of this, it's
yeah,
so easy to pick up and text feelings.
hmm,
You can't read emotion in a text. Um, Pick up the phone, like, call a loved one, call a friend, call somebody. I do check-ins with my people probably like once a week, or whether it be on the phone or I drive by their house, even if I'm uninvited. Just just so they can feel the love, really. But it's not
Yeah.
just for them to feel the love. I don't, and if I've ever told them this, it's like seeing them brings me peace. Um, everybody that I have surrounded myself with is in a great space in life. So watching them relish actually gives me more life because I'm not that person who is spiteful because somebody is doing good. That shit's invigorating to me to watch my friends succeed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like
So,
when I pull up to see them, and it's just the see just it's just for their presence. And I think that we all like have this thing where like, oh, again, it's we live in this society where it's a man supposed to do this and a woman's supposed to do this, right? But I've even told you, I tell like my people, my friends, my circle, I tell my friends, um, I love them every day because because I was not happy with life. I know how fast life can go, and I never want to leave anything unsaid with them or anybody I really care about. So I just try to relay that love to them, and sometimes, I mean, it may come across a little overbearing, but at the same time, because of my trials and tribulations, I just love that much harder because at any given moment, I almost didn't have that. And
yeah.
I don't think that they necessarily before this understood where I was coming from. Um, because when I love strong. It doesn't matter. I don't, you know what I mean? So it's just good to be able to breathe air
Yeah.
because man, it every day I wake up, it's a blessing. Um, and I look at the kids, it's a blessing. And like I said, it's just to look at where I was 10 years ago till now. Um, it's a blessing
It sure is.
because I I didn't have a care for life. And I wasn't one of those people who just said it just to get the. I really didn't. Um, but now looking at my kids have grown up and to watch them, I would have missed out on all that. So for anybody who feels like that they would want to hurt, just think about that. Just think about this somebody who like my kids need me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what keeps me going every day. That's my motivator. Um, talking to people like you. I, and I meant it like offline we can set something up because I think what I've tried to do is surround myself with strong men, um, because if you're if I can't be raw and uncut with you and tell you how I feel at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Um, then we're not friends. We're not friends or we're not family because at any moment I could be feeling something like that, and I think that everybody has done like my supporting cast has done like a great job of just being able to understand where I'm coming from. Um,
In fact,
it's simple.
and what you're saying that leads to a future podcast within the next probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah,
Once I get it set up, it's going to be like kind of like a barbershop talk, on this
yeah,
podcast where you know myself and a few men are going to just talk about whatever,
hmm
no subject matter whatsoever. Um, in the podcast, it's just a conversation, and just going to let us kind of go for about an hour and a
yeah,
half, and just kind of talk about whatever it may be. You might have bring up this topic that we're talking about right now in that podcast, and then it leads to this conversation, that conversation, um, and so I'll definitely invite you, and I got a few others that I'm gonna do.
I appreciate it.
It's,
Um, I definitely appreciate the thought, and plus, I'm aside from this now, I'm a jokester, so
yeah,
um, I just like what I mean. I just like to laugh. Like laughing is a cleanse to the heart, especially in the times that we live in now.
yeah, and
Um,
that. That's what I like, about that barber shop.
Yeah,
Talk
that's
about,
actually a really yeah.
yeah, it's a friend of mine. He's talked about he's trying to get a men's group together, and I also said, hey, that's something I was thinking about doing on his podcast.
Hmm.
To just kind of vent, and then actually, add another piece to that is where I would do, with a bunch of women, do a
Yeah,
salon podcast,
yeah,
where they're just in the salon and they're talking about everything, and I'll just have to deal with the blunt. They may be talking about a lot of men, and I'll have to keep my elbows up and everything
yeah,
and just listen
yeah,
to all the women, but that's good. At least they're talking about it, and so
yeah. They're talking about it. And because again, and I don't think that they like a lot of the women go through it too.
yeah,
Um, and again, there's this stigma that it's like you have to be strong for your kids, or you have to be strong for this, you have to be strong. But what happens when you can't?
yeah,
Like you know what I mean? Like what happens when you can't? Like sometimes you can't always be strong, and it's okay. You don't have like I am cut from the cloth where everything is gender free in regards to like there's no mom hours, there's no dad hours, it's parent hours.
hmm,
Because you're never, from my experience, I don't want her to feel alone. So
yeah,
it's just constant ways for self improvement. I think that's what I try to do every day is just try to check a box. And one of those boxes, as simple as it may sound to a lot of readers, is waking up,
yeah,
or having to will to wake up. Because at one point that wasn't on the top of my to do list. That's for sure. Had no desire to. In that in It's like I have a new reason for life.
yeah.
Um, so all I can say, keep doing what you're doing. I love tuning in. Um, I love to talk because again, you do a really good job of um, talking about things that are prevalent or relevant to people at the time. So
Hmm.
I just felt with all the stuff. I mean, I've seen a few things on my timeline of people just not wanting to live, and it just kind of inspired me. And then again, I feel like people just have this whole mystique about me, and they think that um, I don't have a story. Um, and this isn't to put myself out there. It's just everybody has a story.
Yeah,
Um, and you're just all I'm doing now is just writing new pages in it. So
that's it. Keep writing those
yeah,
stories. Keep
I
writing those
appreciate it.
stories. Keep writing the chapters, whether good, bad, and ugly.
You
We
know,
all pray that we want it all good. But we're being a realist. We definitely know that sometimes things just don't happen the way we expect them to. So,
for sure.
but you keep writing those chapters.
I
Keep being
appreciate it.
transparent, and I'm here.
Appreciate you.
And I know if I call you,
Oh, I'm
you're
there.
gonna be
You know,
yeah. So,
you know.
but the there's a lot of comments in there. If you have time, please,
Oh
later
no,
on log
I'll
on and
definitely go back and like log on and look because again I didn't do this for self um like admiration. I'd love to see the comments because again there's somebody who could actually it could do something for. So
that's it.
and anytime you call I'm there. You any and that goes for anybody. Like reach out, text, messenger. It doesn't matter. I'll always pick up, especially for you because they don't make men like you or the people that I try to surround myself. Where you guys are kind of broke the mold of what the stigma of a man was supposed to do. Like you're raising kids,
Hmm.
we're raising kids. Like you're still relevant. You're not part of that whole I got them to 18 flock and they're out. Like it, it's good to it's good to be surround myself and be around like good men. Um, so I'm always down and uh, definitely will go through the comments after.
Yeah,
and look to see.
Want to tell you thank you. Want to tell your family thank you that are here, tuning in with us, moms, pops, dad, Paula, Brenda. It just goes on and on.
Yeah,
There's one of your aunts was on here.
yeah, my
So
Julie, that's my godmother. Yeah,
yeah,
love her to
so
death. Love
yeah,
them all,
so
actually.
yeah. We
And
know that, and
yeah, yeah,
so there's some of my friends. Some of my friends that we call brothers, they're all on here listening to us, and
yeah.
it's good. I I want to end with a question for you: Is
Sure.
who would you like to see on the Really Charlie podcast?
I think. Have you had AJ on here? My cousin
A,
AJ?
AJ, the problem with AJ is
Is a schedule, right?
he's doing his own show,
Yeah.
so I like to get him on here only because
If not AJ, because he's got a good story to, and uh,
I'm gonna reach out
that's
to
my
him.
guy. We're really well. Again, I think that was one of those relationships that were kind of tarnished when I was going through my whole story of this thing called life. But AJ and I used to be together every day, and he has a good story too. Um,
And do you know he's my cousin?
yeah, he's mine too. Well,
Yeah, true.
so
I'm
yeah,
true
so
dad.
mine, so Mark is my cousin, but he's also
Yeah,
my godfather.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we have
Well, yeah,
um,
we would love KP too.
yeah. Listen, that
Oh
dude,
man.
he's chick. I send him the links just like I send
Yep.
you. Hey,
Yep.
come on my podcast.
Yep.
I sent. He's always trying to. You know, he always give me excuses, man.
Yeah. Listen,
And if I don't get him now, you know where he's gonna be probably in a month or so. It'll be
he'll be in.
poolside.
Yeah, he'll be poolside, hopping people's fences.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
the thing, I will say this: it says a lot about a man on what he drinks. So it does not surprise me that he hasn't responded to you, because his drink of choice is rum shata in my son's little bottle with a nipple. So, I mean, you're not telling me anything I don't know. I would
Yeah,
love to have him on here, but I
yeah,
also know his character and what he drinks. And like I said, what a man drinks tells you a lot. So
yeah.
I don't know
He
if we'll
likes.
see KP on here anytime soon.
No, he shows us those bottles of tequila and
Yeah.
all those
No, that's
different things.
Bubs. That's not him. That's Bubs. That's it.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just takes the picture with it. That's not him.
Yeah. He's just you got to watch him when you pour. You know,
Yeah, he's one of those.
yeah. He just toss it over the shoulder, on the
Yeah,
side, on the ground.
yeah,
Stuff like that. So,
yeah.
but I'll get him on here one time. And we can dog him out. You
Oh,
know.
for sure. I'd love to. I'd love to tap in for that one too, because I'm always down to get some jokes off on my father-in-law.
Yeah, he claims that he's the better athlete, but it's just not
He
even
also
close.
claims he's a Perry, but that's a different conversation.
Oh, you know what? Hey, that's why we're uncle and nephew, man. We think alike. We think alike.
Oh
Uh,
man,
all right, brother. I love you.
it's
And
always good to talk to you, Ung. And separately, I'll send you my new number so we can try to plan something too.
all right, and you know, give Nikita, the kids, all a hug for me. I
I definitely
appreciate it.
will.
And
Appreciate you.
call me anytime.
All right, love you, Ung.
Love you. Take
All
care.
right, bye.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and viewing the Really Charlie podcast. Today's guest was Brandon Young. He talked about his mental health issues, depression, and stuff he was going through growing up. And he told us. He told us a story, and he also, told us that we're not alone. If you're out there and you're experiencing something, that they're not alone. Definitely not alone, and there's many things or many people that you can reach out to, and just talk about what you're going through. And Brandon is a good soul, similar to like an old soul. The dude is taking care of his family. He's doing what he has to. And at some point in his life, he couldn't do what he had to. But now he knows he can. And he's doing a great job. And I got to commend him. He reached out to me. He reached out to me to tell this story. And that's unbelievable. That's tremendous. So continue to reach out to me, just like Brandon did. You have a story you want to tell, just reach out to me. I try to make time for you to come on here and tell your story. And I really appreciate you all listening. This is the Really Charlie podcast on StreamYard, Anchor, Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. I really, really appreciate it. And tomorrow's guest, or actually Friday's guest, is going to be a young entrepreneur. She's got her own business at the age 13. She's doing well. So Friday's another good show. So please continue to follow the Really Charlie podcast. And if you're on, please comment, and show my guests that, you appreciate what they're doing. Everything's educational, inspirational, and at some point we joke around and we have some fun. That's what it's about, and that's why I'm doing it. So, good job, Brandon Young. Good job, Brandon Young. I'm proud of you. Take care, everyone. Mask those beautiful faces, hand sanitize, and wash your hands. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Be blessed. Love you guys. Take care.